This high school resource officer was caught having a relationship with a 15-year-old girl. The girl only came forward when she was 19 after she spoke to a therapist of what had happened. This all began in 2019 when 34-year-old officer Christian Lennon got a hold of this girl's number and then used that information to find her on Snapchat. He then used his power to reach out to her, forming a relationship and then eventually essaying her in his car and his house multiple times. He told the girl that if she ever told anyone, they wouldn't believe her and they would all be on his side. Finally, in 2023, she went to police and they arranged a phone call between the girl and Christian where she brought up the relationship and everything they've done, and he unknowingly cooperated. His confession on the phone incriminated him, and that was all they needed to arrest him. But what was really weird is that when he spoke to investigators, he argued that he thought the girl was 16, and that meant she was of legal age to consent, which shows that this officer doesn't even know the law.
These are scary cartoon truths that'll terrify you, part 17.
Okay, so Garfield is actually hallucinating from starving to death. Garfield seems like your normal house cat, but he eats 10 times his body weight and still feels hungry. Normal house cats can do that if they're starving to death. Garfield was actually abandoned by John long ago, and he's slowly starving to death while hallucinating the memories of a more comfortable life. This theory was even shown in the 1989 Garfield Halloween special. Garfield wakes up to find the house empty, then looks outside to find the windows boarded up and the grass overgrown. This is so traumatic to Garfield that he forces himself back into the hallucination, and the never-ending cycle continues.
3 urban legends that turned out to be true. Number 1. In the 1980s, parents in Long Island terrified their children with the legend of Cropsey. He was a murderous man who lived beneath an abandoned school and would capture children. But it was later found that the old janitor of the school was still living on school grounds, and it's believed he was responsible for the disappearance of several kids, which made the legend of Cropsey true. Number 2. Charlie No Face was the terrifying legend of a featureless man who would roam the streets of Pittsburgh at night. But it was discovered that this man did exist. His name was Raymond Robinson. He was a very nice guy, and he only left his house at night as he feared his deformity would scare people. Number 3. Legend has it that an escaped asylum patient roams near the Fairfax County Bridge where countless amounts of dead rabbits have been found. There wasn't any legitimacy to this legend until a couple drove through this bridge in the 1970s only to find a man dressed as a bunny who threw an axe through their windshield before they got away.
This is Perfection, one of the worst videos on the dark web you should never go looking for, explained. Okay, so Perfection is a dark web video nobody should go looking for or even want to see. The video shows a woman peeling her nose and entire face off with a potato peeler, with literally zero expression or pain on her face throughout the entire time doing it. After she completely peeled off her face and nose, her jaw was just hanging down because there was no support from the cheeks anymore. There is a story about 3 friends who watched the entire Perfection video and 2 of them ended up dying. Many reports say that while watching the Perfection video, it somehow hypnotizes you and you end up doing what the girl did to herself and dying. But luckily for all of us, this video is literally impossible to find. It's extremely hard to find on the dark web, which means it's virtually impossible to find it on the normal web. This is honestly a video I would even stay curious on, because it comes from the dark web for starters, and it's extremely and utterly awful. Nobody knows who the girl is or why she's doing this to herself, and nobody knows who even made it. But the stories surrounding the video saying people get hypnotized and end up peeling their own face off and dying make it 100 times more scary, and should make you not want to watch it or even look for it. Perfection is regarded as one of the most unsettling and disturbing videos on the internet, and the mysterious origin and story of it make it truly an internet mystery.
Taylor Swift just stepped up, and not only did she donate $100,000 to the family of the woman who is no longer with us from the parade, she did something else that has an even bigger impact we're going to talk about. This woman here is Lisa Lopez, and unfortunately, she is no longer with us because of the parade. Now, we had heard about many of the players stepping up publicly and saying, how can we help, especially the children? However, here's what happened. Her family put up a GoFundMe, and they were asking for $75,000. Let me show you the story. Taylor Swift opened up her wallet to help the family of the woman who is no longer with us during the Kansas City parade, pew-pewing, forking out 6 figures as she started her Australian shows. A GoFundMe has been set up Thursday for Elizabeth Lisa Lopez Galvin specifically to assist her loved ones in setting up a proper memorial for her, as well as general financial assistance. She left behind a husband and 2 kids, and the goal was $75,000. This is the GoFundMe pictured above, and it says Taylor gave an assist and then some, chipping in a total of $100,000 from herself alone, which came in the form of 2 different $50,000 contributions, which she put in her. You can see here she also left a sweet note along with her donations, writing, "Sending my deepest sympathies and condolences in the wake of your devastating loss. With love, Taylor." Now here's the cool part. The cash offerings generated overnight just ahead of Taylor's first concert in Melbourne, where she's been the past couple of days to prepare for a string of Eras Tour concerts. This has other donations flooding in as well, which is such a smart move on her part. I love seeing stories like this, and I love what she did because of her doing that publicly, especially while she's on tour. It's going to make everybody else flood in donations and help. So what she did was incredibly smart. And I've said it before, I am not a fan of this woman's music, but I've become a fan of her, if nothing else, as a businesswoman. So I applaud her, and I think that's great. Tell me your guys' thoughts. Sound off in the comments.
Imagine finding a dead body at work and ignoring it because you think it's a plastic dummy. It was the 10th of October 2023. 34-year-old Robert Owen's body was found face down lying in a garden in North Carolina. Disturbingly, a groundskeeper actually found the body the day before, but thought that it was a plastic dummy and had been left there, so he just mowed around it. It was actually a construction worker who noticed that it was a dead body and reported it to the police on the day in question. Robert was seen alive by his family 2 days prior, and his sister Hayley is absolutely baffled by how anyone could mistake her deceased brother for a training dummy or Halloween decoration. Now, disturbingly, Robert's body was found with very little clothing on. However, police are stating that they are not suspecting foul play. Robert was known to take substances, but it's not yet been revealed whether or not this contributed to his death. When Robert's body was found, he was face down in his underwear and socks, with one arm under him and one arm out. He also had marks on his arms which are speculated to potentially be defensive wounds. He didn't have any of his property or belongings on him, which has left his family with a lot of unanswered questions. They've also expressed frustration at the fact that crime scene tape wasn't placed around the scene. They feel that the crime scene was not properly preserved. The family also stated that they were told that there was some broken glass around his body when he was found, but it's not clear where the glass came from. The family were initially told very little other than he had been shot. The autopsy was conducted and did not indicate an assault. A toxicology report is still pending to determine his cause of death.
Videos that can't be explained. The last one is crazy. What would you do if you were exploring at night and saw this? Supposedly, you can see if an app is spying on you by clicking the share button, clicking more, and if you see an app that you don't recognize in front of your contacts, delete it immediately. Did this girl discover a glitch in the Matrix?
What is this? Because it looks like it's my nails, right? Girl, I've got all my nails.
Half of a green nail in my bathroom, on the floor. I have all of my nails.
TikTok has a secret emoji. If you type the word nap in all lowercase with the bars around it like this, it'll unlock. Let's see who can do it. Before we get to the last scary thing, please support me by clicking the follow button for more interesting posts every day. This man was taking a cute picture with his children when this happened.
Oh, shit. Dude. Look at that. Yeah. Nothing here. Nothing here. Oh my god, I'm so... Oh my god, look, legit goosebumps. Oh my god. What the f is that?
Why don't you just sit down there?
There's no one else up there?
Where do you live at, dear? Thompson? How far away is that?
Like 30 minutes, like close to starting.
Why don't you have a seat right there? Why don't you have a seat right there on that stool?
He probably would have yeah, probably where's she at?
Yeah. Why don't you just sit down there?
No, guys, have water.
Oh, we'll get you some stuff here.
Car number 12.
Is there any weapons up there, dear?
Chloe Jones was beaten with a baseball bat and held in the shed for 4 days before she was rescued. Chloe says she wants her face shown as a warning for other women. She says the accused kidnapper, 33-year-old William Mazengo, offered her a ride home in Kenmore, Ohio. She made the mistake of accepting and ended up in the shed where she was beaten. It turns out Chloe Jones wasn't his first kidnapping victim. He was convicted of kidnapping another woman in Ohio in 2017, but was released after serving only 18 months in prison. Now that victim, Mackenzie Maston, is speaking out.
And the police were able to come in and swarm him, and the whole time during when he was getting in the cop car and everything else, he was screaming that he was going to finish what he started.
When you saw her black eyes, did you have those same black eyes?
Yes, it was one of the most scariest experiences of my life. I just can't believe that law enforcement and the court system is allowing him to keep reoffending.
Well, the internet has bamboozled us again. This is Jamie and Amber Winfield. And yesterday on the internet, Jamie told everyone that he had cancer. Well, let me show you for yourself.
My wife got a call from my doctor, and the cancer is clogging the arteries going to my heart, and I have anywhere from today to tomorrow before my heart stops.
Well, Jamie, aka Mr. Hook 'em and Go, is really living up to his name today, because this is Jamie's roommate. This is Rochelle, the person that them two were living with, and apparently this whole thing is a lie. Let you listen to her side of the story, and some of the egregious claims that he made about getting treated for cancer.
He told me that he had cancer treatment. He claimed that his doctor drove up to the house on the side of the road at 4:30 in the morning and handed him a chemo pill through her window. And he took the pill, which was supposed to be a half dose because he needed it for his heart, whatever. And then he...
Now, I'm no optometrist, but I'm pretty sure what you did there, bud, is illegal, if it is true. And apparently, they received thousands of dollars worth of private donations through GoFundMes and other outlets. Well, even though because they didn't ask for the money directly, they implied it, which still makes a conspiracy, which is a felony. So, if all this turns out to be true, congrats on the ramen noodles, Jamie. You earned them. And say hi to Big Bob for me.
In the last year, there have been some truly disturbing stories coming out of Colorado that involve funeral directors mishandling remains. You may remember back in October, nearly 200 bodies were found in this building belonging to the Return to Nature funeral home and crematorium. Not only were they left there, but this man lied to the families of these people, returning ashes to them that was actually like crumpled up cement. There are some funeral directors on this app who worked at this establishment and have made some really great content that can help inform you better than I can. But like, if you're wondering why they didn't pay their bills and why they lied to people about properly caring for the deceased, it's because they were spending their money on funeral cars and crypto. And just today, a warrant was issued for Miles Harvard, another Colorado funeral director, because he left a woman's body to rot in a hearse for 2 years and improperly held 30 sets of cremains. Not only did he leave her body in the back of an inoperable hearse that he parked in the garage of a house he was renting for 2 years, he gave her family someone else's cremains. The Denver police are saying anyone who's used Apollo funeral and cremation services who did not receive the cremains of their loved one or has concerns about the services that were provided to them can go ahead and call them here. The state of Colorado does not require you have a license to be a funeral director. You must have a business license, but you do not need to have a degree in mortuary science. Death Talk, tell me what you know about this.
It began as a normal day in July 2019. That was until locals in a neighbourhood in New South Wales, Australia, entered a real-life horror film. A woman was covered in blood, yelling for people to phone the police. The woman in question was Jessica Camilleri, and the neighbourhood would never be the same again. Jessica was the daughter of Vince and Rita Camilleri, and she had a troubled upbringing. She struggled with various mental health issues, including bipolar and paranoia. She was bullied at school and was eventually removed after an assault. Her behaviour started escalating and she frequently had violent outbursts. Despite her parents getting divorced, her mum Rita remained dedicated to looking after Jessica. In 2018, Jessica was detained in a psychiatric facility after attacking a woman in a doctor's waiting room. She had also attacked several members of her family and random members of the public prior to this. Things got worse while she was in the facility. She ended up attacking a nurse and her mum insisted on discharging her. She said things would be fine and she would look after Jessica at home. The pair actually had a fairly good relationship and they would send each other sweet messages. However, Jessica started to become obsessed with a man that she knew, harassing him with phone calls and threatening him. Rita actually had to take her to the police station to try and scare her into stopping. It worked for a while and the calls died down. Then on July the 20th, 2019, while out walking with her mum, Jessica had an episode of paranoia. Suddenly, she decided that her mum was trying to humiliate her. She escalated into a violent rage and her mum had to try and call the doctor to come and assess her. However, when the doctor arrived at the house, Jessica actually chased him out. As Rita tried to phone for emergency services, Jessica attacked her with 7 knives. She decapitated her mum and dragged her head outside onto the pavement. Covered in blood, she ran to her neighbours' houses, yelling that she'd killed her mum. When police arrived at the scene, Jessica was stood asking if it was possible to bring someone back to life if they didn't have a head. The crime scene was so disturbing that many of the emergency services personnel had to get trauma therapy. In 2020, Jessica was found not guilty of murder, but guilty of manslaughter due to her complex psychiatric illnesses. She was eventually given 16 years in prison.
The person you just saw in that video was convicted sex offender and pedophile Edward Mascare. Edward was somewhat of a celebrity on YouTube because of the extremely bizarre videos that he posted all the time. These videos included a lot of dancing, lip-syncing, and extremely disturbing and eerie expressions like this one above. Edward was born in the year 1932 in New York City. And from a young age, Edward wanted to entertain people, and that's what led him to Kansas City, Missouri. It was in Kansas City, Missouri, where in the 70s, he worked as the host of a children's program. This program, which Edward hosted until the year 1983, was called 41 Treehouse Lane. And like I said, this program put him around children all the time. Edward also hosted a late-night sort of variety show that aired on local stations, and he was known as this zany, bizarre guy with a lot of energy. Well, eventually, Edward started posting videos on YouTube as he got older, and people started seeing these videos thinking they were really bizarre and funny, sharing them, and he became famous. But that's when people started to do Google searches of Edward and they found some disturbing history. You see, at one point in the past, Edward had been arrested for fondling children. And when people started to do searches of his name, they found all these records and began to expose him. Eventually, Edward couldn't hide from these accusations. He was forced to move cities multiple times, but when the authorities in Florida found out that he was posting videos, they went and arrested him because typically sex offenders aren't allowed to be on the internet, especially not posting videos which kids can easily access. So Edward was then rearrested in the year 2010, sentenced to 5 years in prison, and he died in prison in the year 2012. His YouTube channel is still up, and if you want to see some creepy pieces of media today, you can go check it out yourself.